essential oil forms the herbs that we use. So with the pesto and mortar, when you first start, you always put salt.
Yeah, we put the salt in there, and then we add the coriander root. The coriander root gives a real earthiness and a base to any sort of paste, and most pastes will contain some sort of coriander root.
Right. So that the dry chili that we soak, the seed, you can keep some seed in if you like.
Okay, and with the mortar and pestle, it's not just about beating the hell out of it. There is a bit of a technique involved, and the best way to use a mortar and pestle is to take the pestle and hit the side of the mortar and then grind as well. So it's almost two actions in the one thing where you're pounding and grinding to achieve a nice fine paste.
Then you don't really want to make too much noise when you pound it. If you make too much noise, that means you didn't do it properly. So with the pestle and mortar, when you use it, as you can see, we're gonna put like a lot of, this is all the ingredients that we're gonna put in the paste. And then when you work with this, you work with a harder ingredients first, like that one he put the coriander in first, and then he followed by the galangal.
And the lemongrass.
And then the lemongrass. You keep the soft ingredients like shallot, garlic, anything else that soft later. Because if you put it into early, it's got too much water and it's gonna go into your eyes. Yeah?
Yeah, that's great.
So you keep pounding. We have chili, and with this paste we also add some dried prawn, like this, the small one, and then we pound it first to make it fluffy and nice before we put it into the pestle.
When we're doing a paste, as you can see, we're not measuring anything. In Thais, they generally don't measure anything when they cook. And an important way to work out what ingredient to add next and how much of each ingredient to add is to use smell. So the Thais will smell the pestle, and that will determine how much of the next ingredient they can add. Because obviously once it's in a paste, you can't take it out.
Yeah, you can smell whether you have too much garlic or too much shallot, and then you add something else to balance it out. And in this paste, we also put smoked fish. We call it prakor. It's a freshwater fish, and then you dry it, you slice, smoke it, and you can put it in many different things, just to give it bodies to the rankigs and also the aroma to the rankig as well. So you keep pounding until you got something like this.
This one we prepared earlier.
Yeah?
Let's set it out. Okay. Copy.
Add the shin paste into the paste as well. Okay, so once you've got something like fine but not too fine, so you've got textures, and when you pound the pestle mortar, it's good that you don't have to put any water in to make it blend. So it's quite dry, so it helps when you fry in the oil.
Yeah.
After we're happy with the paste, we're gonna start putting this one in. And this one is the young jackfruit that has been boiled already. So this is like the heart of this relish.
The reason you boil the jackfruit is because if you eat it raw, it's very astringent and slightly bitter.
Right.
So when you boil it, you maintain some astringency. However, the bitterness is leached out of it through the boiling process.
Right.
I'll say.
So just don't put the core part in.
Once the jackfruit's in, we don't want a really fine paste because we want to maintain the texture of the jackfruit once the relish is finished.
And the last thing that's going to go into the paste is some real local tomatoes. This one will give the sourness to the paste a little bit as well.
Okay.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to fish that out? Yeah. Yeah. So in Thailand, nam prik or the relish, we can make it to different categories. The first one is the raw one. So basically you pound everything in the pestle mortar, you season it with sauce, lime juice or whatever you like, and then you eat it like that with assorted vegetables. Or with this one, the cooked relish.
Yeah, so the cooked relishes, once again, can also be broken into two categories. The first being where the ingredients are cooked before being pounded and seasoned. The second is where you cook it afterwards. So in this instance, we're frying it in pork fat, but you can also find relishes that are steamed or grilled.
That's true. And the only reason we use pork fat, not because Spanish got really good pork, but these dishes come from the northern part of Thailand, where like the jackfruits come from, and because it's so close to China as well.
Yeah, so the proximity to China, the Chinese influenced a lot the cooking in the northern areas, and they introduced the pork fat and the use of pork as well in the food.
Right, so you got hot pork fat, put the paste that we pounded in. I'm gonna use this one. And before going any further, I'm gonna put this one in as well.
This one, pandanus leaf. The pandanus leaf by itself has no smell, but once it's heated, it releases a fragrance and is used a lot in Thai cookery, not only in savoury but also in dessert. And you might want to stand back, you might start sneezing.
So at this stage, we want to get all the ingredients that we put it in the pestle and mortar to get a really nice aroma.
When you're cooking any paste out, especially this nam prik, you're going to smell the ingredients in the opposite direction in which you pounded it. So the first things you're going to smell is the shallots and the garlic cooking out, and then you know it's cooked when you start smelling the dried prawns and the plug rock, the dried fish or the smoked fish.
Once you can smell everything smells, and it's almost like want to make you sneeze,
yeah.
You add other things, and in this case, we're gonna add the minced pork.
The minced pork we're using lean pork, but also pork belly. So it's about half-half. So you don't want too lean, but also if it's too fatty, it'll leach out, and the paste will become oily itself.
That's me.
Enjoy.
Normally we cook it in this wok, like this. The wok in Thailand, you don't have the corners like the pot you have here, so it's not gonna catch or scorch anything, but it's not gonna work with the inductions. So here's the one. I put a little bit more pork in.
So one of the beautiful things about Thai cuisine, especially nam priks and relishes, is you can take so many strong ingredients. As you can see, there's like 15, 20 ingredients here into this one dish. And some of them by themselves may not be that palatable or nice, but once mixed together, you get something that's harmonious and very well balanced.
That's true. So nice and fragrant. Now the pork starts to cook. We're gonna start seasons. With the seasoning in Thai food, what we're trying to achieve is to get the balance of the flavors. Like in the paste, you have dry prawn, smoked fish, and the shrimp paste that is contribute to the saltiness of the dish already. Now this time we're gonna put the palm sugar in, or the coconut sugar. And this coconut sugar is really special.
Yeah, basically these days it's really hard to find coconut sugar produced like this in the traditional manner, in which the people, our farmers who pick up the sugar, they climb the trees twice a day. They're quite old, so it's an amazing feat by itself. But they take the sugar, they boil it, and it's made without adding any preservatives, any whitening agents, any stabilizers, which the majority of the sugar available, especially overseas these days, is they add white sugar, they add whitening agents. And this sugar itself is sweet, but it also has a nuttiness and a fragrance that really enhances any dish you use it in.
Right, and then we're gonna add a little bit of fish sauce as well. to give it like the different dimension of saltiness, because sometimes if you use only salt or the shrimp pastes can be quite boring. So this one we have different dimensions of salty. We also have different dimensions of the sourness as well. Like in this one, as we put the tomatoes in the paste already, we also gonna use the tamarind. It's coming like this.
The tamarind is this one that we mix with water and then strain, and then you just take out the extract here. And that will impart a sourness, but also a subtle fruitiness and plumminess into the dish as well. It's not as acidic, it's not as intense as, say, a lime or a lemon juice.